I taught myself to sew, to draft sewing patterns, to design garments. I didn't go to art school or fashion design school. I rely on my inner knowing that has taken decades to stabilize and root in studio practice. I trust the life force inside me that wants to take form. That's how I started making garments, and that's what kept me going without an external structure. I'm designing a Pinafore uniform, and the idea of materializing this garment makes me feel a little weak in my knees. I am not entirely sure why when I start the design process. It's a dialogue with the form, with the process. The meaning unfolds with the making. What I do know is how the creative energy pulls me forward in my body. That's how I know whether I can stay with a complicated project to completion. I evaluate the intensity of the creative calling in my body. I trust in this intensity. It's the most reliable, energetic signal. I'm using a vintage Pendleton A-line wool skirt for the fabric for this project. I thrifted this brand new skirt for a fraction of the cost because it has several holes. I do not know at the start of the project if I would have enough fabric or if I might have to do some patching, but I'm determined to use this beautiful wool plaid fabric. I prefer to problem solve in the process, in participation. It's far more interesting to me to live in the evolving question than to execute a predetermined plan. The challenge is to tolerate uncertainty. The pleated front skirt panel is the most technically challenging aspect of this garment. I had envisioned a graduated inverse box pleat that starts narrower at the waist and widens toward the hem. It took me several days to deeply understand the pleat structure and how a differential pleat would change the pattern drafting. I drafted and tested the pleat pattern several times, and at the end decided to use a red gingham fabric for the pleat underlay to both conserve my wool fabric and also to support the geometry of the pleat structure. When the pleated panel started coming together, it was both relieving and satisfying. The skill I build in the studio practice while solving technical issues does not unfold in a neat, linear way. My mind still gets frustrated. The temptation to walk away is there. But over time, I have learned that if the calling is true, then the energy will dwell there, and I will be able to access it when I return to the studio. When I use this creative energy fully, I still feel spent. But there's also an undercurrent of purpose that can feel like joy. I didn't start drafting the bodice pattern until I had the front pleated skirt panel and the back A-line skirt panel done and pieced together. As the garment comes together, my relationship with it deepens. I have always loved uniforms. Growing up in Taiwan, uniforms were ubiquitous and standard. They bring me back to a time of anonymity when I existed without a self-consciousness of being seen, of needing to perform, of needing to manage the adults in my life. My self-energy was still very much intact, whole, and accessible to me as a girl. Uniforms are dignified. Being in first grade and in my school uniform signified that my only job is to be a kid and to learn. This period of life was very fleeting for me. Textiles and garments become a placeholder for an aspect of self. The mind can forget, but the body remembers.
You alright? Oh. Aw.
Just don't touch it, please, Alice.
Okay.
Thank you.
He's putting his fingers in the way blocking.